therapist in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Most of my clients are teenagers, and probably the most terrifying and rewarding job I have on this planet is being a mother to 2 teenagers. This is one of them, Carter, who's a senior this year. And so part of what I wanted to do is I'm throwing questions at Carter that he hasn't heard yet. You're so brave to do these questions. But asking him as we moving from fear-based parenting to faith-based parenting, because the Bible talks about we don't need to be afraid, but I'm telling you, as a parent, it can be super scary. Mm-hmm. And so one of the questions I get from parents is, how do I build a relationship with my teen? Parents who feel like they do not have a connection and they want one with their teenager and they can't figure out why it's not working. So could you just give some basic tips for parents and mentors and counselors on how do you build a successful relationship with a teenager?
Yeah, I guess, it's kind of a tricky question to ask because I don't know where people are at all. But I feel like for a lot of things, there's always a balance between a parent trying too hard to make a relationship with their kid and a parent that doesn't try at all to make a relationship with their kid. And I've seen both in my friends' lives, and I've been lucky enough to have the experience of, I feel like, a good balance of both. So personally for me, a good balance, what looks like is where my parents are, like always being there for me and asking just daily, like, hey, like, how are you doing? How was your day? And just asking me those basic questions, but doing them repeatedly every day to the point where, at some point, like, I'll just feel more comfortable. That's great for me. So being consistent with those questions, every little thing counts, I guess, would be that topic. Mm-hmm. If you want to add anything to say about that.
Well, I was going to mention that one of the things, so I go to a counselor to get coaching on parenting teenagers, and I'm a counselor, so I recommend anyone who has teenagers to go and get coaching on how to parent. One of the things that one of my coaches had mentioned to me is not to repeat myself, like ask questions and not even give you advice unless you ask for it, and just listen, that kids want to be heard. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you would agree with that advice.
Oh yeah, for sure. Being one of the best ways just to grow closer is to listen. I studied this not too long ago, maybe like a month, that just like one of the best ways people realize that you're talking to them and that you care and listen or are listening to them is actually through your eyebrows, because they can tell that you're like attentive just by whatever your eyebrows do, I guess. I don't know, some scientific thing. But I was kind of thinking about that. And I was like, like that's a cool way, like that maybe I should try to
implement.
Implement that in my life and listen to people more attentively. But I've got the great example of my parents to do that for me as well. That whenever I'm talking, that they're curious to know what's going on because they care and love for me. Maybe what looks like in a parent that doesn't do that is maybe they'll just blow off what the kid's saying, or maybe think that if they don't listen to their kid that the kid will like want to go back or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of weird things I've heard, and but really just the best way to do it is just to be there for them constantly, and even if your kid's just talking about something that to them like, or to you, like doesn't matter at all.
Right.
Necessarily, like with my little brother, I know we've talked about this, how my little brother's like super into like Pokemon and stuff, and like maybe that doesn't even matter, but just being there for him and listening is a great way to grow a relationship. Mm-hmm.
And like we talked about in another video, I mean, I downloaded Pokemon Go. I played it with him at the Mall of America. I really have no idea what I'm doing, but it's the idea that like if this is the activity that makes us come together, and I know you and I have done things like gone to concerts and doing things with your kids that they are really into that maybe you're not into, mm-hmm. in order to build that relationship. Yeah, that can be super important. And I love what you said about the listening piece, because I think so many times I'll have families come into my office and the parent says they want to connect with their teenager, but then as soon as the teenager starts to talk, the parent right away wants to talk back with them and give them advice and just insert themselves. And so then there's no, it sounds like just stepping back and letting that teenager talk without a response is powerful.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And just even if you know the right answer as a parent, just letting them figure it out.
For sure.
It's really hard to do as a parent. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
It does not come naturally. I will tell you
Yeah,
that too.
it makes sense. You want what's best for your
Right.
best for your kid, but
When you know it, it's really hard not to just give it, right?
Yeah.
And I know I've asked permission. There's times where I've asked you, hey, so do you want advice from me right now, or do you just want me to listen? Because then I know what you want. And there's times where I wish it's an opportunity that I could give advice, but I really, and again, it's not, because you haven't opened up for that yet. And I think that's an important piece. And then I had another one tell, the other thing is a lot of parents, including myself, tend to repeat ourselves. Like we say one thing, like, make sure that you pick up your brother after school. Did you remember to pick up your brother? Like repeated comments. I've had kids tell me that makes it really hard when their parents continually hammer on something over and over. Would you agree with that? Or?
oh yeah, for sure.
And I've been guilty of that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing too that I had I've also seen, I think with our family and with other families, is even when we are doing some sort of, if you guys have done something wrong and we're doing a punishment, one thing we never take away is family experiences. So I've had parents decide that if their child is not doing something correctly, then they're not going to go with them to do something. And that actually hurts the relationship. I think I've made that mistake and had to correct it too. So it's a learning process. I have to say.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like, obviously I'm not a parent, so I don't know what it's like. But if you're a parent looking for deeper conversations with your kid, I feel like putting yourself in a vulnerable position, like just saying, like apologizing to your kid is, because not only are you being an example to them for what you want them to be, but showing them that like you're putting yourself at a lower position so they can understand how much you love them. That's huge. So, but being vulnerable is a really difficult thing, but it's also a thing I feel like at least I've been called to do in other people's lives, is put myself lower so I can help other people. And I feel like you can help, but I feel like being that example as a parent is important.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of practice with that because I have a lot to apologize for. But no, I think you're right. I have seen that where the minute that an apology happens, there's healing. And so I agree with you that that's a great point. Parents apologizing. I hadn't thought of that. And that's really good. Yeah, and I think too, as parents, when we share the mistakes that we've made in order to show that we are human, like we've made mistakes too. Yeah, that's huge. And we've always tried to make it clear that we always want you and your brother you can tell us anything, and without that judgment and that grace, that we'll just listen. So, yeah, you're doing it. You're just fielding any question I have. This is very helpful. So, anything else that you would like to add as parents try to build relationships with their kids?
I've already said this, but every little thing matters. You might not see it, and it might be hard to see it in the long run, but just being there for your kid every day and just asking them little questions is going to be huge in the long run. I've totally seen that in my life, and I've seen that in other people's lives, and I wish that I could see it in some of my friends' lives. So, but like we've talked about, don't force anything. Let your kid come to you with questions, and be there with open arms and being slow to speak and patient with them. So.
And I love that you just mentioned that, because I've had parents afraid of some questions, and so not being afraid, even to say, I don't know. Like if a parent doesn't know the answer.
Oh yeah.
Being okay with that answer too.
Yeah, we're all living life together, trying to figure it out. So
that's for sure. And like I've said in all the other videos, I always recommend people that have teenagers get other opinions and coaching and counseling. So
yeah.
Well, thanks, Carter.
Yeah, you're welcome.